Too many chances, too few runs. The Dodgers dropped their series in Boston and have now lost 13 out of their last 18 games. At this point, is it even a surprise?
You are Locked On Dodgers, your daily Los Angeles Dodgers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
It's time for Locked On Dodgers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. LA let opportunity after opportunity slip through the cracks at Fenway Park, where they had 21 runners in scoring position, with most of them still waiting in Boston. Lots of moves for the boys in blue, including the return of Blake Trinan, Mookie Betts not being in the lineup twice, and Blake Snell's final rehab start, plus the latest rumors regarding the trade deadline for LA. We're talking about this in today's episode, which is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use the code LOCKEDONMLB at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. He's Travis Rogers. I'm Harry Ruiz, two guys who talk sports for a living and bleed Dodger blue for life. If you're an early bird listener of our show, you can get more Travis on 710 ESPN LA or the ESPN LA app from 9 to noon with the Travis and DeMarco show. As for me, I'm the Spanish play-by-play broadcaster for the Las Vegas Raiders and USC football, but nothing beats jumping them on the mic every morning and diving deep into what I love most, which is talking Dodgers baseball with you. Travis, you want to see this series in Boston as a glass half full or glass half empty situation? Because we can do
Harry,
both.
It's interesting. I keep waiting for this team to have that moment to go, there it is. There they are. That's the team that I thought that they were going to be this season. And they get the big hit. They get the shutdown inning. They have the guy show up and have that big moment at exactly the right moment. And they just can't get it. They're getting closer, maybe, if you want to be optimistic about it, but this is another series loss. This is another, I think, like you mentioned at the beginning, a missed opportunity, because they certainly had plenty of chances to break some of these games open. They just couldn't get it done. But, here we are. We're closing in on August 1st. We're towards the last couple of days of July here, and they just really have not found their stride for the better part of a month, and they certainly didn't find it in Boston.
Yeah, and we can go back to some games against Milwaukee where we didn't feel that it'd be competitive. So definitely the series against the Astros, where it seems like that's the turning point where the Dodgers lost their superpowers, where it was like, well, that wasn't it. And this one against Boston, it's like just a play or two or a pitch or two, like Dustin May. He had been more than good for most of 4 innings, and then in a 3-pitch span, it went from good to bad to now the Dodgers have to come back and win the series finale. And look at the difference between the games. 5-2 win on Friday, 4-2 loss on Saturday, where you got 2 home runs early in the game and no more runners across the plate the rest of the game. And then a 4-3 loss against Boston, where you were winning 3-1 for a big chunk of the game. And it's like, man, at least we're close. We're there. You look at the stats with the runners in scoring position, 3 for 21 with runners in scoring position this weekend. You had 26 hits, 15 walks, 10 runs this weekend in Fenway Park. When you got that many traffic on the bases, you have to win games, and the Dodgers just simply weren't able to.
No, they've gotten the script flipped on them a little bit along the way to it, like you mentioned, where they hit a couple of home runs early and then that's it. And nothing else happens after that. That's what some teams used to do to them, to where maybe they score a couple of runs in the first few innings. It was like, yeah, whatever. It doesn't matter. The Dodgers are going to come back. They're going to find a way to stack runs later in the game, put together some big innings, string together some hits. And the next thing you know, what was a 3-1 deficit, they're ahead 7-3. They're not doing it. They're having it done to them. They're becoming incredibly home run dependent, which is fine when you're hitting a lot of home runs, but a lot less fine when you can't get guys in from, I thought yesterday's moment where Miguel Rojas leads off the inning with a double, and you're thinking, okay, well, there's a run. There's an opportunity to get that guy to third base, an opportunity to bring him in. You don't even have to get another hit. You just got to make some outs that make some sense. Instead, Miguel Rojas is still standing at second base at the end of the inning, and that was with the meat of the order coming up. This isn't with some other guys that are not nearly as productive. This is with Mookie and Shohei and some of your other better players. So that was disappointing as well. And it just feels like what they were so good at is no longer their area, which is just this relentless grinding down of the opponent until finally it breaks and then a bunch of runs come in, or finally they're able to get that big moment, that big hit, that big opportunity. Maybe it's an error on the other side. Maybe it's some infield hustle or whatever it is, just that little thing that kind of springs the whole thing open. They can't get it done. And on the opposite side, it's getting done to them. You mentioned Dustin May. Clayton Kershaw it felt like he was 0-2 or 1-2 to every guy in the entire game. He couldn't get the punch out. He couldn't finish it off. And it's just this funk, this malaise that they've been in for the better part of a month. They just have not been able to shake it. I'm still very optimistic that they will, but it has been a really long time where they just have not looked like a great team.
Or even Will Smith coming up as a pinch hitter late in the game against Boston in the series finale, runners on first and second. You're like, okay, all we need is the hit here, and we're going to tie the game. First pitch, pop out to left field. And it's like, that was it? It's like, man, he's your most reliable guy all year long, and he couldn't even get it done.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought that up because, Will Smith, like you said, has been their most consistent performer all year long, but how many times have we seen a guy pop a ball up early in the count, if not on the first pitch? It feels like Mookie's popping up every time he comes up to bat, and just these are not good outs. And I know that this isn't 1987 anymore, and we're not butting guys over. We're not doing all that kind of stuff. But until you get back to the winning way, until you get back to your traditional way, until you get guys that are hot again, why not move a guy over? Why not put on some plays just to try to loosen some things up? I understand that this is not how they're going to play 162 games. That's not what it is. But when it comes to kind of trying to unlock them a little bit, I would be willing to try just about anything available to me right now. And they looked kind of stale all over again.
Yeah, and what a huge difference a win on Saturday or Sunday would have made for this team, which in their last 6 series, they've won 2 series and lost 4. If you win one of those 2 games, you can be like, all right, over our last 6 series, it's been 3-3, and that's what a slump classifies in for LA. Right now, it's like, no, 2 for 4, and we got to add that series against the White Sox to be like, all right, at least we got a chance to finish the month with decent numbers if we put up a good fight in Cincinnati.
They're 5-13 in their last 18 games. That's just bad by any possible. That's Colorado Rockies bad. That's Chicago White. I mean, 5-13 really, really stinks. And the team. I'm not saying the team stinks. I'm saying that stretch of games stinks. There's no two ways around it. And the good news is you're still in first place. The good news is there's still 2 months of baseball left. The good news is there's some help on the horizon. And I really do think that, Mookie will come out of whatever hole he is in right now. He's just too talented of a guy. I think those things will start to work themselves out. But, man, it gets harder and harder, Harry, the longer a stretch like this goes to convince yourself that this isn't who they are, because it just feels like they're just something that's and I'll use this as an example from last year. Last year, every time you're like, they need a hit here. Bang, they'd get a hit. Or, hey, they need a big strikeout here. They need to get off the field right here. They'd get the big strikeout. They get a big defensive play. And now it's being done to them. They're the team that gives up the hit. They're the team that can't get the hit, that makes the error. They make 3 outs on the bases on Saturday afternoon. It's like, these are things that teams that are really scuffling and struggling. I get you're trying to push it. I get you're trying to make something happen. And I know Dave Roberts said he was okay with some of those outs that were made on the bases, but you look at who's making them. Like, if we're going to make, I don't know if I need Freddie Freeman making outs on bases. That's just not what he does. He's a good base runner, but he's not a fast runner. And those just seem like bad decisions.
Yeah, which we've seen Mookie done. He did it in LA as well in that series against the Astros, where it's like, just stay at second, let the team get you home. And it's like, no, you feel right now that you got to do extra to get yourself in a good position. And that's an unfortunate situation. You brought up Mookie Betts, and we'll mention it because with all the everydayers that check us in and out every single day here on Locked On Dodgers, we've been talking about his struggles. Well, he missed Friday's game, wasn't in the lineup on Saturday, and was struck out looking working as a pinch hitter for the final out of the game. Then on Sunday, he went 1-for-4 with 1 RBI and a walk. And after the game, the Dodgers shortstop announced after that loss that his stepfather recently passed away, and he was back in Tennessee to be with his mother and family during this difficult time. Obviously, we send our condolences. And Travis, you have a big loss like that in your family, and it does make sense at times to be like, okay, maybe that's one of the reasons why he hasn't been producing as we're used to on the field.
Yeah, I think that's certainly possible, Harry. Like you said, it's so funny because we look at these guys like they're characters in our favorite TV shows, right? They're just out there playing the role of Mookie Betts, all-star shortstop or all-star right fielder or Hall of Fame player. Well, he's a real person with a real life going on, outside of those 3 hours that he's on the field playing baseball for the Dodgers. And when you have a loss like that, it certainly can affect. It certainly can be something that you carry with you in a variety of different ways. And hopefully he's doing okay. Hopefully his family is doing okay. And hopefully he can start to, get back to whatever normal routine there is that wasn't being able to done before. And we can see more of the player that we've seen before. But, like you very well said, this is a hard time, and who knows how anybody reacts to it, how long it might take. It might take a few weeks, a few months, maybe. It's impossible to tell until you go through something like this. So I know everybody's rooting for him. I know it's really interesting because rarely when you have a guy that makes a ton of money like Mookie Betts that is in the middle of your order, that's so important what you do. When they go bad like this, usually people want to pull their hair out and scream and boo. Nobody's doing that with Mookie. Everybody loves Mookie. Everybody understands that he's grinding really hard. Everybody understands that he's invested in trying. And I think it turns. I think it turns at some point before the end of the season. But this could explain why he's had such a tough time for the last couple moments.
In most jobs, you have a loss like that in your family, and he brought it up that his stepfather had been in his life since he was in 4th grade.
Yeah.
Something like this happens, you get a week off or a couple of weeks off. Mookie took Thursday off as the off day, the travel day for the Dodgers, and then Friday off, and Saturday he was back with the team. So we send once again our condolences to Mookie, his family, and hope for him to be in a better place as soon as possible. Well, next on Locked On Dodgers, the rotation for LA is getting a boost this week with Blake Snell scheduled for his first major league start since late March. The thing is, the Dodgers will do so with the 6-man rotation. Is that the right call? Ever wish managing your money felt easier? With Monarch Money, it can. Whether you're growing your savings or planning a big purchase, Monarch puts you in the driver's seat. It's like having your own personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money is more than a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place. So in addition to managing your money, you're also building wealth. After I joined Monarch Money, I was shocked to see how many subscriptions I had, and also all that takeout, it definitely stacked up. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use the code LOCKEDONMLB at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONMLB for half off your first year. Don't forget to follow Locked On Dodgers not only on YouTube, but on X, Instagram, and TikTok as well. You can find Travis on social media at Travis Rogers on X and Instagram. Meanwhile, I'm at Harry Ruiz on X, at Harry_Ruiz on Instagram, and at Harry Ruiz_ on TikTok. There's where you can see me vent about the Dodgers. Let us know what you make about the news of the Dodgers going with the 6-man rotation starting this week, because this was the plan once Shohei Ohtani was able to be on the mound for the Dodgers. And with this move, it seems like LA will have a semi-bullpen game, at least for the next 2 Wednesdays when Shohei takes the mound in Cincinnati versus the Reds and at Dodger Stadium against the Cardinals. Travis, you think they should keep it that way or keep Sheehan or May behind Ohtani when he pitches?
Well, I kind of like the 6-man thing. I think what we've seen, from some of these guys, in particular, Yamamoto being on that 6-man rotation really seems to help him a great deal. When you look at the other guys that are in the rotation right now, just about all of them have dealt with one arm ailment or another. Tyler Glasnow, who has been terrific since he's came back, but you're always kind of holding your breath with him just because he's as delicate as he has been. Clayton Kershaw is an older player who's been around the block a million times. You'd like to give him as much rest as possible. And then you've got Ohtani, who, I know we're going to try to see 4 innings out of him against the Reds, but it's still less than half the game. So he's still not carrying a full load the way that he might as we get a little closer to the postseason. And Blake Snell's pitching just in his 3rd game. So none of these guys are really built up, with the exception of Yamamoto, to take on a huge load regularly. Sheehan and May have both been inconsistent. They've had moments where they've looked really good. They've had moments where they have not looked particularly good. So I like it. If the bullpen can weather it, if they can cover as many days as they're going to be asked to do, I think it's a good idea. But obviously that's the wild card in all of this. If they can have enough bullpen innings to cover these guys, because you're going to be in there just about every single day. I do like it. I think it helps everybody in that rotation by having one extra guy in it.
Yeah, you go over the weekend and the bullpen pitched 10 and a third innings and didn't allow a run. You had Kasperius, who had a rocky outing when it comes to him getting his first major league save, but he was able to get through it and get the win for the Dodgers. You had Wroblewski come back on Sunday and do a good job as well, asking him to hold on to just this. We're down by 1, hold it so our offense has a chance to come back and at least tie the game. They weren't able to, but at least you can look at, okay, maybe the bullpen, they're in a better spot right now. These guys, Dreyer, Kasperius, Wroblewski, we weren't thinking about them at all when it came to spring training, when it came to the beginning of the season. But I feel that even though Kasperius had a rough patch the last month, he's still a guy that you can trust on when you're not asking too much out of him.
Yeah, it's interesting. When the Dodgers, in the offseason, when they went out and spent the money on Tanner Scott and they go out and they spend some money on Kirby Yates, you're like, oh, that bullpen's going to be really good. They've got some really high leverage guys. You got some all-star performers. Well, those guys really haven't been the backbone of this. It's been more of the guys like you just mentioned that maybe you weren't thinking about, a Dreyer and a Kasperius, who those guys aren't going to carry a ton of water. Alex Vezia has been really good for him all year. He's become kind of a reliable guy there. Banda has been a little bit hit and miss, but more hit than miss. And those guys have carried a lot of the load on this team. And like you mentioned, now all of a sudden with Wroblewski and Knack and May, and we'll see who's still here, in a couple of days after the trade deadline. I would imagine that you might get a little thinner in there to get what you want in the bullpen, but you're starting to see the outline of that pitching staff that you thought you were going to have at the beginning of the season. Right now, you've got a variety of options in the starting rotation. Some of those guys that were kind of borderline starters, like a May, like a Knack, like a Wroblewski, maybe they can slide into more of those middle guys and allow your guys that have really carried the load, Kasperius, Vezia, Banda, those guys, to pitch more towards the back and just give them a little bit less on a weekly basis. Instead, I'm just kind of making up numbers. Instead of pitching 5 or 6 innings a week, maybe it's 3 or 4 innings a week. And that just will help everybody along the way, because you're getting those bridge innings, those 5, 6, and sometimes 7 innings out of the way. I think that's a really good opportunity for this team to kind of just settle down. And like you mentioned, no earned runs over the weekend. That is by far the brightest spot for this team coming out of Boston, is that the bullpen stood up really tall.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's like, I'm pissed that they lost the series. But then after watching the games, it's like, well, we were so close.
Yeah.
And it was just a swing or two away going off the monster instead of just hitting the warning track to be winning this series or sweeping this series, where it's like, well, okay, Boston, the Red Sox players know perfectly how to play off of the Green Monster, both offensively and defensively. You saw Andy Pages, Michael Conforto struggling there, or Will Smith, instead of having to bomb the ball all the way over the monster, just hit it off the monster, and that's going to be a double, or it's going to be a long single that will get a run. But going back to the pitching situation with the rotation, man, I'm excited to just think I'm going to be able to go to the probable pitcher section of Dodgers.com and see Yamamoto on Monday, Glasnow on Tuesday, Shohei on Wednesday, then Snell more than likely the series opener in Tampa Bay, Kershaw following him up, and then the Dodgers closing out this road trip with either Emmett Sheehan or Dustin May. That sounds like a rotation where I'm like, this looks great for the regular season. And now looking up into October, I'm like, that's something that I feel that no team in baseball wants to play against when it comes to the postseason and knowing that you got those 5 or 7 game series.
That's what it was supposed to be all along, right? This was the dream scenario where the Dodgers basically built 2 full starting rotations. You had the guys that you just mentioned, and then you had a whole secondary rotation of guys like May, Knack, Miller, Gonsolin. We haven't talked about Roki Sasaki in months. That he's another one that could be slips, put into either one of those, the first rotation or the second rotation, and then you just kind of mix and match through the course of the season. And then by the time you get to October, you say, okay, who are my 3 or 4 best guys? We'll throw them out there right now. And it's starting to take shape. Obviously, as we get closer to the postseason, and this is, knocking on wood with health and everything else, but Yamamoto, Ohtani, Glasnow, and probably Snell, assuming that his health is there, but that still leaves you guys like Kershaw and Robleski and Knack that can kind of fill as needed, but you're starting to see that optionality that everybody was so excited about at the beginning of the season start to come together, because we really there hasn't been a single point all year where everybody's been available. There's been guys up and down the entire time.
Exactly. And now also Dustin May, that's the big question mark. For a good period, a good chunk of the game in Boston, the series finale, he looked good. But then he had those 2 hits in a 3-pitch span where it was like, all right, game over. Now he has to get pulled. And that happened when they had their 3rd turn on the lineup to see Dustin May again. And it's like, okay, but look, you can look at it either way. I know that you're not a big proponent of Dustin May being in the bullpen. I see that little segment of the game, or 10 batter segment of the game, where it was like, okay, maybe that's what we can get from him out of the bullpen. But then I also look at the beginning of the game. His first batter hit by pitch. He ends up scoring the first run for the Red Sox in the game. The end of the game, for him, a home run, a single, or a triple home run, they end up taking the lead. And it's like, okay, is he a part of this team or is he not a part of this team?
I think, if he doesn't get traded, he's going to be a part of the team because he's got an electric arm and he's certainly got stuff that will play at any given point. I worry about him in a non-starting role, because think about what especially when you're talking about October, if you're going into the bullpen, they're almost every single inning in the postseason is a high leverage inning. I don't even care if it's the 4th inning and you got a 4-run lead. It's still a high leverage situation. And he seems to be a guy that kind of eases into things. He seems to be a guy that needs to kind of work his way into, okay, now we're cruising along. Well, you don't have that luxury out of the bullpen. You got to come in, you got to throw strikes, which is something that he can struggle with. A lot of times you got to come in and get a lot of swing and miss, which sometimes can be something that he struggles with. And you got to be good from the jump. And those are 3 things that I don't know. Like if you have, hey, look, we're going to get 5 innings out of you, just kind of ease into this, figure this out. He's usually okay, but it's I need you to get 3 outs right now and get us out of trouble. I don't know if I want to lean on him for that. He might not be here, but if he is here, he's going to pitch. It's just a matter of where do they pitch him.
Yeah, with him, you can look at him as either the guy that can be behind Shohei Ohtani, piggyback on him, or the guy starting in that 6th spot behind Clayton Kershaw. Well, while the rotation finally seems to be the way the front office envisioned it when it made all the offseason signings, now it's time to take care of business everywhere else on the field. Coming up next on Locked On Dodgers, the latest regarding all the rumors involving LA ahead of the trade deadline.
Today's episode is brought to you by Gameday Hue, and so, of course, are all the incredible gear that you're seeing all over the place right now. For Dodger fans like me, Gameday Hue absolutely hits the mark because the colors are perfect. Sometimes like, that kind of look good. No, this is exactly the right color. Gameday Hue makes clean, no logo gear with team-inspired colorways for every pro and college fan base. So it's all about letting the color speak for you. No giant logos, just smart, versatile style that works on game day, on the course, or pretty much anywhere in between. You can wear it to a tailgate party. I like to wear mine on the golf course, of course, right? Sometimes you just throw it on when you're running out the door to shoot up to the store, or go to the bank, or wherever it is. And every time it's like, hey, man, where'd you get that? That's the kind of hat that keeps people turning their head. And it's not just hats, right? Check out their split shade gloves as well, made for the golf course, or the perfect gift for that fan who has just about everything. And right now you can get 15% off with the code MLB15 at GamedayHue.com. That's GamedayHue.com. The code even stacks on bundle deals. So now is the time to load up. Let your colors talk, because colors speak louder than words. That's GamedayHue.com, code MLB15.
Thanks for making us your first listen wherever you may be tuning in, either on your favorite podcast app or our YouTube channel. Smash that notification bell so you never miss a beat. Full episodes, hot takes, breaking Dodgers news, and the Dodgers postcast show with Pete Fox live after the final out of every game. If it drops, you're on it. That's how you become an everydayer here on Locked On Dodgers, like Rumar, who I always see giving his thoughts in the comment section over on YouTube. Shout out to Rumar. Well, it's trade deadline week. The exact date is this Thursday, July 31st at 3 p.m. Pacific. And as we get closer to it, we start hearing more and more rumors regarding potential players for the Dodgers to strike deals for. Bob Nightingale reports that LA have interest in outfielder Harrison Bader of the Twins and utility man Brendan Donovan from the Cardinals. Well, these two are good options right here, Travis, when it comes to taking over potentially either left field or center field with a positive bat, which could be the jolt that the jolt of energy that the Dodgers lineup needs right now.
Yeah, it's interesting, right? How quickly this stuff can change from one week to the next, and how, where your area of emphasis is. That you run it back a couple of months ago, it's like, oh, they got to get starting pitching. Well, that seems to be the one thing that they have in abundance. And then it's, well, you got to get some help in the bullpen. Well, yeah, I'd still like to see a bullpen arm come in, but it does feel like that has calmed down a little bit as well. And you start to got some more typical performances out of your guys in the bullpen. And now the focus is on, hey, you got to find an outfield bat. You got to find somebody that can play a variety of positions. Well, Michael Conforto kind of sort of had a pretty good weekend in Boston. He got on base a few times. He hit a nice home run. He had a couple of other extra base hits along the way. So over the last month or so, Michael Conforto has been a lot better than he was through the first couple of months of the season. Now, he still hasn't been great, so I still think that you're probably looking for an upgrade there, but at least the possibility of talking yourself into using him in addition to another guy is possible. I still think an outfield bat, another bat, is important, because as weird as this sounds, it's gotten pretty thin outside of a couple of guys. Muncy coming back will help a great deal. Like your best acquisition is a guy that's already on your team, probably, in Max Muncy. Mookie Betts is a huge part of this. If you feel great about Mookie figuring it out, you can be a little more cautious. You can be a little more selective in the trade market. But if you're one of the Dodger executives, if you're Brandon Gomes, if you're Andrew Friedman, you're looking at Mookie Betts and saying, look, we're a ways away, that this may not turn around in the time that we need it to, you got to be a little more aggressive in that offensive market. I expect them to do a little bit of both. I think that they'll probably get a relief arm. I think they'll probably get an outfield bat, but I don't think you're going to get that big name that maybe we were hoping for. I would still love to see Stephen Kwan come. I just don't know if the price is doable.
Yeah, Michael Conforto, man, the start of that game on Sunday in Boston, when he misreads that fly ball, it's like, okay, that's it. Cut him. Yeah. And then he ends up going 3 for 4 with a home run. And it's like, okay.
Boston's a weird place, though, if the outfield, like if you're not out there a lot, that can make a really good player. And I'm not trying to stick up for Michael Conforto here. He's had a tough season, but that wall in left field, unless you've played it a bunch, can make you look pretty uncomfortable.
Yeah, and since that series in Colorado where he had a resurgence, he's had 20 hits, he's batting .285, and it's like, okay, I see people in our comment section, the everydayers saying, "Oh, it's fool's gold. You're getting tricked with Conforto," and that could be the case. But at the end of the day, it's like .285 over the last month and change. That's almost the second closest to 300 that the Dodgers have. next to Will Smith, who is over 300. So it's like, okay, is it real? Is it not real? But well, coming back to these two options that Bob Nightingale said, I honestly think Donovan would be the mold of the player that the Dodgers want, because he is, for starters, a left-handed batter. And then also you see his versatility playing multiple positions, both on the inside of the infield and on the outfield. That's what the Dodgers love seeing. Compare nothing against Bader, but I feel that Donovan, plus also he has 2 more arbitration eligible seasons in his contract, which would make it, if you're going to give up something for him, at least know that you're going to have him on your team for a couple of these seasons.
The Dodgers love guys that do more than one thing. It's something that they've coveted. It's something that they go out of their way to try to find. Think Chris Taylor, Miguel Rojas, Kike Hernandez, Tommy Edman. Even Mookie Betts can play the infield and the outfield. Like they're just, they have so many guys that can do so many different things. So Donovan certainly fits that mold along the way. And again, Muncy, I think, is a huge part of this. If Max Muncy comes back and plays the way that I think we're all hoping he does, if he looks similar to what he did before he went down, it lets Tommy Edman go back to the outfield, or it puts Tommy Edman back at second base. And all of a sudden, everything just kind of calms down. It gives you some more options in the outfield, whether that's Kim, whether that's, it could be a handful of different guys, but Muncy coming back just lets everything calm down a little bit, and then you can fill in with a Bader or a Donovan, or roll with Conforto, or continue to give opportunities elsewhere. But it's an interesting one too, with like James Outman too, because he's one of your better defensive outfielders. And if do you want to do like a Kiermaier situation from a year ago, where you have a guy that can really go get it, that doesn't bring much offensively? They've got some options on the table all of a sudden.
I feel if Donovan ends up coming to the Dodgers, Conforto might lose a spot, because off the bench, you look at guys like Kim, versatile. You look at guys like Kike, versatile. You used to look at a guy like Chris Taylor with the same situation, where they might not have the best bat in their hands, but you know that you can, if you need somebody to come in, or even Esteury Ruiz, who they put in there for his speed, and be like, okay, his speed plus his glove out in the outfield, that's a good combo. But if Conforto is relegated to a bench role, is that really the guy you want on your bench? He's not the best outfielder. He's not the best with the bat. And he's only going to be available to play out of left field. So you're like only going to pinch hit for him when he's in the left field spot for the left fielder. So I feel that if the Dodgers end up trading for one of these guys, it's going to end up costing Michael Conforto his spot. Another bit of news, Joe Kelly, it has been reported that he's going to have a tryout, a workout with the Dodgers this week ahead of the trade deadline. And let's remember, he's still a free agent. He has said that he'll only play for the Dodgers if he comes back to baseball this season. And this is an interesting option in case all their backup options, or whoever they're trying to go for in the trade deadline, ends up not being coming into fruition. So Joe Kelly, an interesting option. And now we feel better having Blake Trinan back and available since Sunday's game and for the rest, hopefully, of the season. But you always got to keep yourself, your head on swivel, and be like, okay, what if something happens with him or any other reliever?
Well, I like Kelly for one reason, and everydayers might have heard me say this. I use this a lot on my radio show. I love guys that aren't scared. And what I mean by that is you can throw them into an incredibly pressure-packed situation, an incredibly high leverage spot, and know that they might not get the guy out, but it's not going to be because their eyeballs are like this, like, oh my gosh, I've never seen anything like that. It's because they don't locate a pitch. Joe Kelly's not scared. Joe Kelly is just going to let it rip. He's just, Mariachi Joe is a real one, right? Like he goes in there and is fearless. Now, he gets hurt a lot. He can sometimes be wild. There are some things there. He hasn't pitched in the better part of a year. So there's a lot of stuff going on there, but I love guys that go in there and are absolutely fearless, and Joe Kelly's at the top of that list. If he's healthy and he's still running it up there near 100, certainly worth a look.
And one last one to talk about a report. The Red Sox are supposedly interested on catcher Dalton Rushing to join their squad, according to a report from Sean McAdam of Mass Live. In it, he says that the Dodgers have had a scouting presence at Boston's high A affiliate to keep an eye on 2 prospects, shortstop Franklin Arias and left-handed pitcher Brandon Clark. I'm calling BS on this one, because the Dodgers, if you let go of Dalton Rushing for 2 prospects, who's going to be your backup catcher to give a day off here and there to Will Smith? And who's going to be your guy to come in that position with a decent bat? Because in the past, it used to be Austin Barnes, Clinton Kershaw's guy, which it's okay. Every now and then he would play. Now the Dodgers feel confident enough in Rushing to give him 1 or 2 starts per week. I don't feel that they're going to let him go to get 2 prospects at this point of the season.
I would be really surprised if something like that happens, because the reason you let Rushing go would be to get something that helps you today. Like if Rushing were on his way out and say Jarren Duran was on his way in, then it's like, okay, because Jarren Duran helps me today. The Dodgers have done a really good job of drafting and development now. So they're always going to be able to find more prospects. Here's the one, but if the Dodgers see somebody in an organization that, I want that guy, that's really interesting. If they would be willing to give up a player of Rushing's ceiling to go get another prospect, that must mean they feel really, really good about that other prospect. I don't think it's going to happen. Let me be clear there. But I think if the Dodgers make moves now, it's to make moves to help them in 2025, not something that's going to help them in 2028 or 9. So I'd be surprised if you saw prospect move for prospect as opposed to prospect move for current major leaguer.
Yeah, and remember a couple years ago, a guy by the name of Diego Cartaya, one of the top prospects for the Dodgers. He was just released 5 days ago by the Twins. Look at Jeter Downs, part of the trade for the Red Sox for Mookie Betts. He's down. He's in Japan right now. So it's like, hey, you never know what you have with prospects. Just go with the sure thing, like you say, Travis.
It happens all the time. If you took 10 can't miss prospects, maybe 2 of them hit. You know what I mean? And like, let's just use Jarren Duran. Jarren Duran is not no. He's a major leaguer, and he's a capable major leaguer. We saw him. He had a good weekend against the Dodgers.
Great audition.
Yeah, for sure. These guys that might be good, which means they might not be good. Guys that are in the major leagues and producing at a major league level are major league players. And I'm not saying that in minor leagues prospects don't matter, but they matter less than proven major league production.
Yeah, I'll close it at that. If Dalton Rushing is involved in a trade with the Red Sox for Jarren Duran, I'm down for that. If it's for 2 prospects, just keep the Rushing and have him be the backup catcher for Will Smith the rest of the way this season and beyond. Well, that'll do it for today's show. From Travis and I, thanks for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen. If you're still craving more baseball talk, have the all-new Locked On MLB Game Night be your second listen. Every game, every night, all season long. Get local analysis on a national scale. Find it on Locked On MLB on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. And also catch Pete Fox after every Dodgers game on our YouTube channel with his live postcast. It's incredible. The last out is called at the plate. He's on the air already here on our YouTube channel. We'll be back tomorrow, Tuesday, to talk about the Dodgers kicking off their 3-game series in Cincinnati against the Reds. Can they get back on track, Travis, or will the bats stay ice cold in key situations?
It doesn't take a lot to turn, but it feels like it takes forever for it to happen. I really think they need one game where they just, score 8 or 9 runs, and Mookie gets 2 or 3 hits, maybe pops one out of a ball. But Great American Ballpark's tiny. I think you're going to see a lot of home runs. So hopefully guys come and get healthy in Cincinnati. I'm optimistic.
I'm calling it. Mookie gets back on track in this game tonight. We appreciate you riding with us. Until next time, keep it real, keep it Dodger Blue.